The biggest snub in sports history. Isaiah Thomas not being on that 1992 Dream Team. Everyone knows it was supposed to be him and not John Stockton. And if John Stockton is on that team, Isaiah Thomas needs to be on that team as well. Everyone knows it. And granted, whatever you thought about this guy, he was the second best point guard in the league at that time. Magic and Bird took the NBA by storm when they came in 79 and battled all throughout the early 80s for championships. You always hear Magic, Bird, Jordan. There's a little gash in there where Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons won a championship back-to-back in 89 and 90. But the basketball gods overlooked that. This is one of the most underrated championship teams of all time. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Pistons fan, because there's a lot of teams. There's one of those Spurs teams that were underrated. There's a lot of them, but let me digress. This is not really about the Detroit Pistons, but it's about Isaiah Thomas and not making that team. Isaiah Thomas, prior to this Dream Team, and prior to Jordan and Pippen winning in 91, where the Pistons were back-to-back champions. And Isaiah Thomas put that team on his back with a bunch of nobodies and went to the championship back-to-back. I know. I'm going to get it in the comment section saying that they had Dennis Rodman, saying that they had Joe Dumars. Think about it, in 89 and 91, nobody was even talking about these guys. Dumars and Vinnie Johnson were great shooters, but they weren't all-stars. We had a young Rodman. That was the Rodman for the Bulls. Mark Aguirre used to play for the Dallas Mavericks and became a role player when the Pistons acquired him. And then you had a young John Sally first or second year, and he was just a defensive player. Bill Laimbeer. He was a center, but he couldn't compete with Kareem or Ewing or Moses Malone, who was around back then. This guy, Laimbeer, played like AD and Giannis and Kevin Love and Karl Anthony Towns and those guys. Their center was James Edwards. Who? Exactly. But they weren't going up against nobodies prior to, the Bulls dethroning them. They were going up against Ewing and Oakley and Mark Jackson in the East. They were going up against, like I said, Moses Malone. Doc was around, a young Barkley. They even acquired Rick Mahorn, who was with the Pistons later on. Early on in his career. Look this on YouTube. Isaiah Thomas trying to punch Rick Mahorn. Rick Mahorn laughed at him. But they weren't, they went against Bird and McHale and Parrish. Isaiah Thomas did all this with basically nobody on his team back then. And then went to the finals against Kareem and Magic and Worthy and played on 1 foot in the playoffs. Go look that up. Then had to play against Drexler and Terry Porter and Cliff Robinson and Buck Williams on those Portland teams. Isaiah wasn't just playing anybody. He put this team on his back. And he can't make the Dream Team? But when you look at the Dream Team, you look and you say, no one wanted him to play on that team. I get that. I can see why. Jordan, I'm not playing if Isaiah's playing. Yes, you were. You had a McDonald's endorsement. You had a Gatorade endorsement. You know how much money you would have been missing out on? He was going to play. There's no way he wasn't going to play, even if Isaiah was on that team. So you can say all you want, Jordan wasn't going to play, Pippen wasn't going to play. Pippen was 26 years old. He was the youngest one on the team. Outside of Chris Laettner. Christian Laettner, he shouldn't even been on the team. Isaiah should have been on the team. All these guys were already older. Of course, Jordan's going, I didn't like Isaiah Thomas because of the Jordan rules. And, he walked off the court when you guys beat him. Didn't shake your hands. You had a problem with him. Magic didn't want him on the team. He beat Magic in the finals. You know, Isaiah Thomas questioned Magic's sexuality and how did he acquire it when he got HIV. And they had a rift for a couple of years. I didn't even know this. He dethroned Bird in the East. Said Bird would have just been an average player if he was a black guy. Rodman actually said it, and Isaiah was just coming to the aid of his friend. Was Isaiah a jerk? Absolutely. He beat Barkley in the East. Barkley and Rick Mahorn could never get past him. Like I said before, Isaiah tried to punch Rick Mahorn, and Barkley came to his aid. Barkley could care less. Malone and Stockton, of course, didn't like him because Stockton always played second fiddle. There's a game Isaiah was just taking Stockton taking him to school, embarrassing him. Isaiah comes to the hole. Malone gives him a elbow gash to the eye, and he had to get 40 stitches. Ewing was in the East. Hey. Yeah, Oakley, Ewing, Mark Jackson, they couldn't get past him either. The Pistons own the East. He beat Drexler in the finals. Embarrassed him on their own court. Vinnie Johnson, the microwave. And Pippen, of course, he's not going to, he doesn't want him in there. I'm not playing. If Mike's not playing, we don't want Isaiah on the team because of your migraines and one Eastern Conference Finals, and then you had a concussion the next one until you came into your own. The only one he didn't have a problem with was David Robinson and Chris Mullin and Leitner. He beat half the Dream Team. And these guys saying they don't want to play with him. Back then in the All-Star voting, Magic Johnson was voted the number 1 point guard. Isaiah Thomas was number 2. John Stockton's numbers for his career were 13 and 10. 13 points, 10 assists. And we all know he has his all-star accolades. He's one of the 50 and 75th anniversary team. Isaiah, same thing, 50 and 75th anniversary team. But Isaiah was 19, 9, and 9. He averaged almost 20 points a game and 10 assists. And you put a 13 and 10 guy and leave him off? Because everyone's upset because he walked off the court with seconds left. LeBron James does this all the time. He walks off the court in the middle of games. Go back and look when he played with Miami and he left the Spurs. He didn't go congratulate Tim Duncan. Walked off the court. Walked off the court when the Warriors beat him. Just had an attitude. Bad sport. Okay. Maybe there was a freeze out. Maybe he initiated that when Jordan came in the All-Star game. They talk about there was a freeze out. We're not going to pass on the ball. Isaiah's a kid. Isaiah's only 2 years older than Michael Jordan. Yeah, Moses Malone. Yeah, George Gervin. Yeah, Dr. J. All laughing, telling Isaiah to do it. Isaiah says okay, from what I hear. I mean, come on. Was it as Isaiah always says, it wasn't me who led the team off the court when there was seconds left. If you can see, I wasn't the first one. Yeah, Lambeer was the first one. But come on. Everyone knows that Isaiah Thomas initiates all this stuff. Nobody wants to play with him. Isaiah's been a 12-time All-Star. He's been to the All-Star game multiple times, You mean to tell me how come no one said, I'm not playing in the All-Star game. If Isaiah Thomas is on it, I'm just not going to participate. You spend the weekend with them during All-Star weekend. Granted, okay. You're going to be around them for 6 weeks during the Olympics. When they decided to let professionals play in the Olympics, because we were getting embarrassed, the college kids were embarrassing us, getting beat by Russia, settling for the bronze. There should have been an attitude. Why wouldn't you want somebody like Isaiah on your team? And Chuck Daly doesn't need to vouch for him. And I get it. I get it. Chuck Daly's getting all-stars. These aren't the bad boys where we're playing rough and tough. Who wants to coach and have to deal with drama? You guys don't like Isaiah, you need to get on. Yeah, who wants to do that? So Chuck Daly's like, whatever. I care less. He coached Isaiah. They got a championship team. Maybe he's tired of, wanting to coach his team. He wants to coach some other guys. I get that. But don't give me this, his own coach didn't even want him on the team. Chuck Daly could care less who was on the team. He was happy to be coaching the Olympics. His guy wasn't on it. No big deal. In fact, if you read Scottie Pippen's book, he said Clyde Drexler had an attitude and didn't gel or fit with the team because he was upset because he had just got beat by the Bulls. So from what Pippen says, he walked around with his head down, hogging the ball, trying to score all the points in the Olympics because he's trying to make himself be just as good as Michael Jordan. I got news for you. You're never going to be Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler. You never will be. Just like Isaiah will never be Magic. And Isaiah Thomas is my favorite basketball player. A jerk off the court? Absolutely. 100% with some of the antics he's done. But he still should have been on that dream team. We want to go put a whooping on all these other teams in the Olympics that embarrassed us? Get your best players out there. And the best player, point guard, after Magic Johnson was Isaiah Thomas, not John Stockton. So, to me, that's the biggest snub in sports history. I'm not just saying that because I'm an Isaiah Thomas fan. I'm an Isaiah Thomas fan. Do I like his character off the court? Not at all. Not at all. I'm not going to get into all, some of the things he's done that were off the court, but he was a Hall of Famer, 90s MVP, two-time NBA champion. He averaged 20 and 9. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been on that team. That's just my rant for today. Leave me in the comments section. Let me know who the biggest snub in sports history is. This is the Waters Rant.